Friends in Christ, Pastor Brian here. Columnist and author David Brooks is one of the voices I listen to when pondering our society. He's thoughtful, careful in his speech, well-read on the subject, has observed our culture for a long time, and he travels throughout the country listening to all kinds of people. Now, he points out in recent talks that 71% of Americans believe that most people would take advantage of you if they got a chance. And nearly half of young adults, about 46%, sees others as selfish, exploitative, and untrustworthy. In short, we are trusting one another less and less. Now, what sociologists, psychologists, and others know is the same thing God knows. When people don't trust one another, there cannot be a functioning society. Now, God faced this problem with the Israelites as they were freed from slavery in Egypt. As an enslaved people, all they knew was the arbitrariness of Egyptian rule. That someone could be killed for no apparent reason. They could be taken away for no reason. And so, as a people, they were incentivized to look out for their own family, which could mean you would hoard or steal, lie, perhaps cheat, to make sure that they and their family survived another way. There was no trust and no unity. Now, as Moses led these people into the wilderness, God knew that they needed to learn a different way if they were to survive. They needed to learn to live in the reign of God, not in the reign of Pharaoh. And so, God provided the 10 Commandments. Laws that began to map out the basic outline of the reign of God, that would begin to shape the Israelites into a new people. Now, it would take time, at least a generation, about 40 years, before they would be ready to enter into the promised land. But when they did, they would be one people, united in their trust of one another and of God. Now, Jesus says we are to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, which means we are not naive, but that we live according to the reign of God. And so we understand the sinfulness of human beings and the fact that there are those who will take advantage of us, lie, cheat. We understand that trusting someone does not mean that we will always agree or even get along, but we live according to God's reign anyway, because only in this reign lies life. So what we do to respond to this trend in ourselves and in our young people is to teach them in word, but also in our own living, to teach them what God has first taught us in the commandments. We worship no gods but God. We live our lives according to God's rule, not ours or anyone else's, because God is trustworthy and desires life for us and all those around us. We see every human being we meet as first and foremost made in the image of God, as someone deserving of love and respect for that reason alone. We treat them with dignity and love. We see all that they do in the best possible way, seeking to understand their actions and words before we reject them out of hand. Now again, this does not mean that we excuse all actions or aren't aware that some people could take advantage of us, but it does mean that our first move towards all people is one of relationship, and that means trust. Trust in our shared humanity. Trust in our shared image of God, and trust that the reign of God is something that can come in some small way in and through our own speech and actions. I wonder if Jesus' command to turn the other cheek and love your enemies is not for such a moment as this. Because sometimes it is only when those who have been lost in the lies of tribalism encounter the unending love of God and Jesus Christ through us, through our living that reality of trust and kinship, even in the face of their abuse. It's only then that they can begin to see a better way to live. Life that truly is life in God and with each other, a way of life that is built on trust. God's blessings.